Okay, so for this video, I'm basically going to go through the steps that I take to make a no nag build of MAME, just so the information is out there. So if you want to do something similar, you know what to go for. There are certain things that people that do no nag screen or no nag builds of MAME don't actually handle. So let me show you something. So this is MAME latest code from Git, and I've basically compiled it without making any changes for a baseline. But look at what happens when we start X-Men Children of Adam. You'll notice that one of the pop-ups, do you see that little pop-up window that says decrypting? It might not even catch it on the stream just because it happens so fast. Well, so that's something to keep in mind, is that it isn't just about removing some of like the nag stuff. It's also about finding all those dumbass little pop-up messages that are in there everywhere. And so those things have to be removed too. So we're going to find this thing. I'm searching the code for the term decrypting because that's what's in there. And we're going to remove that. But basically, like what I'm going to do though is basically globally remove all these things, just so these dumbass messages stop getting in the way of people actually playing the games. I mean, I have a little beef actually with MAME dev over this stuff, because I don't like how they inconsistently and inappropriately throw these nag screens in your face. I mean, so basically there are many encrypted pieces of hardware in MAME. It isn't just Capcom Play System 2. There's all kinds of stuff that has encryption on it, and so I don't understand why CPS2 is this magical thing where we have to display some annoying pop-up message when you start the game. I mean, really, in a way, it's kind of infantile, because it just comes off as like, oh, we're so proud that we decrypted, CPS2, that we have to shove it in your fucking face every time you start the game. No, actually, I'm not going to look at it. I don't give a shit. Nobody cares whether the game is encrypted or not. So, if we look at see this file, they're in source MAME machine CPS2 crypt. There's actually this this little chunk of code here, and see how it's calling machine UI set startup text. So we're going to want to look at this because there's some real bullshit going on here. A lot of fucking obnoxious shit going on here. But basically, I like to really completely annihilate this crap. Like, I'm not just about commenting out stuff. Like, I don't even want it wasting fucking cycles, even though, I mean, it's like infinitesimal, but it's just the point. I don't even want to be wasting my CPU cycles on this stupid fucking bullshit. So, boom. Was nice knowing you. You're not actually showing us shit anymore. You're just gonna start the fucking game, asshole. So that's gone, and if I rebuild this sucker, it's probably gonna tank everything because I'm using basically all 8 cores. That's another thing about building MAME. You'll notice. Well, I don't even know if you can read it, but I'm running it with the argument J9. And basically that's just telling it how many threads that it can use to compile, and so the general rule of thumb is you take how many cores you have and you add 1, and that's how many you want to use to make it compile as fast as possible. I mean, if you have some 32 core CPU and you just compile MAME using make and you don't actually tell it to run any more threads, it's going to take like 5 fucking hours. Compiling, even though you're going to run into memory bandwidth limitations in some instances, I mean, more or less with MAME, more cores significantly increases compile time, or decreases compile times. So you definitely want to use as many cores as you can get there. So we clean that sucker up. And I'm going to copy this thing in here, and I'm just going to basically show you each step along the way, what bullshit we're removing, until we finally have a clean binary that is worthy of being put in your arcade cabinet. So Yeah, I mean, compiling MAME, MAME is such a huge program. There's so much in it. It just I mean, even when you do an incremental build and only change a few files, I mean, it takes fucking time, man. Just because it's a huge goddamn program. But really though, I just want to point that out though because I think that that is a major thing. Like a lot of people miss that when they make no nag builds. They remove, they remove some stuff, but they don't remove everything, and so you still have those stupid decrypting messages and other dumb bullshit. And it's like you want a really seamless, clean transition in from your front end to the game. Where it really is just black screens matter, man. Black fucking screens matter. Like, I don't want to see any shit. Like, I want it to be solid black when I start a game, and I don't want to see any bullshit before the game starts displaying graphics. Like, that's how I feel about that. I don't think I'm gonna do any more incremental builds after this one because Jesus, it's taking fucking forever to compile. I was, reading something where somebody that had a slower computer, they were talking about it taking like 5 hours to compile MAME, and I'm thinking, Jesus, this is one reason why I'm really interested in those Ryzen 9 CPUs because I do a lot of compiling, and it really takes the wind out of my sails when I look at the prospects of having to do another MAME compile because you're basically just saturating your entire computer for a good chunk of time. Even with a pretty fast computer, I would say that MAME takes a solid 40 minutes to compile, and so if you had one of those like 24 core plus Ryzen 9 CPUs, I bet that you would see some amazing compile times with those things. And so even though they don't seem to be as fast per core for single threaded programs, for compiling MAME and other large programs, that would be pretty fucking huge. So I am going to look at that. I think that if those next series of Ryzen processors come out later this year, I might actually look at building one of those just because really, like, I would do MAME compiles way more frequently if I just wasn't getting browbeaten by these fucking compile times. It just takes too long. I don't want to spend that much. Look at this fucking shit. This is an incremental compile and it's still going. Jesus. Granted, I guess I am streaming something right now, but that should mainly be happening on the GPU anyway. So I'm gonna copy. Oh, oops! I copied that to nothing. Okay, so I'm gonna run this thing. So now when I run this, I should not see the decrypting message when it starts up. See now you just see loading machine. So I like that, man. I like that. Like I said, once you go black, there's no going back. And so, you want this thing to be as clean as possible. So the other thing I'm going to search for in here is I don't know if they're still using the initializing lingo. But if they are, I'll remove that shit too. And yeah, because basically we want to remove all traces of this fucking crap, from when the game starts. Yeah, and also I've noticed that just for kind of like troubleshooting or debugging, when MAME developers are working on drivers, they tend to make a lot of calls to a pop message function just so they see like, oh shit, I know that there's some point in the machine emulation where something horrible happens, so they display a pop message for something just because it's a little less primitive than just doing like a printf or something in the program and looking at the console output. So that happens too. Yeah, so see this shit. See, here's another one. Set startup text. Oh man, you motherfucker. That fucking hurts, man. That fucking hurts. So yeah, actually, you're not going to set the startup text, you motherfucker. That's gone. So that's in. So far we've changed MAME-C or MAME-CPP and CPS2 crypt CPP, and that gets rid of some obnoxious shit. Actually, just going in here, looking at some of the you know, generic functions here. There's probably a lot of shit that we can just, you know, proactively clean out, just so. Just so we don't have to change it in a bunch of different places, because I believe that there are some like ROM loading methods that you know, call a lot of these messages. So okay, so right now I'm looking in MAME source front end MAME, and there's a UI section. UI has a lot of bullshit in it. I mean, obviously UI is going, you know, this is, you know, UI stuff. There is, I believe, a UI CPP file, and this has a lot of horse shit in it that's very offensive. And so, yeah, see this section here, display startup screens. There's a lot of fucking crap in here that we really don't care about. I don't give a shit about fucking JavaScript ports. That's fucking horrific. Yeah, actually, fuck you. Because we basically never want to show game info, this is getting fucking nuked from orbit. I'm actually never going to show warnings, so fuck you. And because we're always not going to show this fucking crap, I don't think we need this bullshit anymore. I don't know. You know, see, it's just me, but man, I need my fucking, you know, curly braces. I hate that shit when people just write if statements and then that shit isn't encapsulated. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Okay, so yeah, this is offensive fucking crap. We're never going to show warnings, so fuck you. I mean, it actually, in fact, this is just setting the background color to warnings. I really couldn't give less of a fuck about this. I'm just gonna empty that fucker out for now. Fuck you. Yeah, I don't give a shit about this fucking crap. And then we might want to keep some of this shit, because this is the shit for those weird like computer drivers that you know, that show messages when you start you know, the program, like if you're emulating a computer or something. I mean, even though like for the purposes of like arcade emulation, that's, you know, more or less never going to come up. Yeah, so we can take that. See, I don't know if this thing, okay, that's still used. Is this still used? Yeah, that might be sufficient. I'll try compiling this just to see if I broke anything there. But that's pretty much what I do, though. You know, I just I like completely stripping this shit out, because I don't want, you know, anything, man. I don't want, you know, one last bit of that bullshit left in there. And the thing is, even after you remove the startup text, you still have issues of I believe, where when they show startup messages when you launch a machine, it puts a white border around the screen. And you know, obviously, once again, I said, like I said, basically, if it's not black, you know, it can suck my sack. That's basically, you know, my motto. I mean, it has to be completely clean when I'm launching the game, or it isn't good enough. And so that shit, I believe that there's a rendering function. Where are we here? So we're in MAME. We're in I'm gonna get out of front end here. I'm gonna look in MAME. I'm gonna look in video. No, these are the drivers. I don't want this. I want yeah, I want EMU here, and then I believe there's a render. Yeah, that's got it. So in MAME source, you know, EMU, there's a render C++ file, and see this whole thing here. They have this thing where they basically say, if we're not running a machine, basically if we're still, you know, like initializing or you know starting the program, you're gonna draw an outer box, and that's what all this shit's doing. It's literally just drawing a box, a white box around the, or like, or rather a white border around the screen. So yeah, actually, you're not gonna draw a border, you fucking asshole. You're gonna be solid black, actually. So that's fucking gone. That's the other offensiveness we need to get rid of. And I believe there's also a ROM loading file. Yeah, there's ROM load CPP, and I think this has some bullshit in it. I'm gonna look for the word text here. Yeah, see, I need to get into this set startup text bullshit. See, basically, instead of like going through here, you know, like an idiot and changing 50 billion occurrences of this, I think we're just gonna go straight to the method and start butchering it up. So let's find, because it's going to be called everywhere, you know. It's just going to be just all over the fucking place. I mean, even though, I mean technically, I mean it doesn't really matter, but we can just empty out this function too. I mean because basically it's like it is technically wasting cycles in memory even calling this fucking crap. It's, you know, it has a string that it's creating and loading up with you know, whatever machine information is in there, and then it's setting it. I mean, basically, I mean, essentially, this whole function could just be emptied out. I don't think I'm going to go to the extent where, you know, I actually start like removing everything from the, you know, the header files, because I don't want to, you know, go, you know, that deeply into it. It's just too much of a nuisance. But yeah, see, this fucker is gonna be, yeah, this motherfucker. See this thing right here, set startup text. See, basically, this thing is just going to, yeah, fuck you. Yeah, actually, you're not gonna set startup text. You're never gonna start setup text again. That's the last time you're ever gonna do it, you fucking asshole. So so that's gone. And so this, I think, should get rid of quite a bit of it. We still might have to look at the pop messages. If that, okay, so that finished. I can save this without trucking the compile. So we got rid of the outer border. We emptied out the set startup text, so it's not going to get in our fucking face again. And let me search for this pop message again. Yeah, because I believe, this might not be what it's called, but I believe that there's some function called like pop message or something. And you know, it might just call, you know, I don't know what it calls. We'll see here. Because I don't think it probably doesn't call set startup text, because that's only when the machine isn't running, and these pop messages can display, you know, while the machine is actually running. So it's got to be something different. But I think once we get rid of these pop messages, you know, things, I think that'll pretty much do it, and we'll have something clean. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, like the enormity of the MAME source. I mean, look at this shit. I mean, just searching for a string in the source code on a fairly fast machine takes some pretty significant fucking time, just because it's so much code. I mean, it's just such a huge project. So it's really quite amazing. All right. Oh yeah. See, they're all over the fucking place. Oh man, these motherfuckers. See, look at all this shit. See, this is an example of the kind of crap they call. See, See, they have something, you know, where they tell you, oh shit, you know, you needed a card in slot 2. I mean, it's just all over the place, you know. See like this shit, EGA read mode 1 not supported yet. See, this is all just developer crap. I mean, you know, I mean, yeah, it's like this stuff might be useful for developers, but the bottom line is, you know, I don't give a shit about this fucking crap. I don't want to see it while I'm playing a game. And see, I mean, if you go to talk to any MAME developer, they're going to tell you, oh my god, what you're doing by removing these messages is a war crime because people won't even know that there are problems with drivers and they'll submit, you know, false bug reports or report problems that we already know about. Yeah, fuck you. I don't care. I don't give a shit. I mean, the bottom line is, oh my god, look at the Saturn driver. This thing is just one long fucking string of pop messages. Holy fucking shit. No, I'm just looking to, you know, for where, oh, here we go. It's in machine. This motherfucker. Oh man. Yeah, I guess it's defined. It looks like it might be defined in machine here. Let's see. Oh man, you motherfucker. Come on, baby. Show me the fucking pop message. No, maybe it isn't. No, I think no, it's defined, I think, somewhere else. Oh, here we go. What the fuck? Oh, no. No. Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of amazing how many times this thing is actually called. Oh my god. Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna get rid of it. I guess I'm just gonna get rid of it here. But I'm just checking though, just before I get rid of it there, because that would be pretty disastrous to get wrong. Oh my god! Like look at all these. Let me look at this shit. Look at how many times this motherfucker's called. Yeah, see, getting rid of this really removes a lot of dog shit from the emulator, because these things are just all over the fucking place. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna do this. Let's give this a fucking shot. Although I don't know if this probably isn't gonna build, but yeah. So assuming that goes, that should get rid of a large chunk of these motherfuckers. I just hope that it doesn't have to, because even though I'm doing incremental builds, you know, depending on what you change, you could potentially have an impact on a large number of files, because you got to figure. I mean, like, you know, everything that that has a dependency on that has to be recompiled. And the machine header file is pretty fucking ubiquitous in this program. It's all over the place. Okay, well, that's gonna go. So yeah, so basically though, you can kind of see what's involved in it looks like the main things that we have to attack here are the machine header file. We need to go after the machine CPP we go after render CPP for the border, the UI file, the yeah, see, technically, we really didn't have to make the specific CPS2 change because by removing the startup text, by basically hollowing out that that function, we pretty much just globally removed it anyway. So we really didn't need to do that. But all this really did was just save it from even like looping through that shit and even calling it at all. I mean, if you really wanted to do like a super clean build where it just used absolutely nothing more than it really had to run. I mean, you could more thoroughly clean it out, but just for just to be practical though, I mean that this is probably sufficient. Hopefully this doesn't take too much longer because I wanted to actually show the final completely hollowed out binary so that we can see how clean that is. And then after this is done, I'll upload it and you can fiddle around with that, but that's the thing though. See, like I the reason I wanted to do this though is just because I wanted you to see what you actually want to go in and change to remove it, as opposed to just saying, oh well, here's a diff file, just run the diff file, whatever. Because the thing is, it's better just to use your brain and know what to look for and what to remove than it is to be reliant on some diff file that was made for a specific version of MAME, and things might change down the road. It's like at some point MAME developers might decide to be complete assholes and say, oh well, we're fucking psychos and we don't like the fact that people are removing nag screens, and so we're gonna change the code in some way to that where you don't go after it the same. But the bottom line is, I don't think that they're really quite like that. I think that, like I said, they want to cover themselves. They don't want to get bug reports when they know that something's broken, and they want to cover themselves where people aren't complaining about shit that they know is broken, and they want to be able to give people warnings if they know that something is unstable or might crash to your desktop or whatever. I understand why it's there, but it just isn't something that is acceptable in an arcade cabinet. It just isn't. Like every time I see one of those videos, it's somebody shows their arcade cabinet and then they start a game and then you see the fucking game information. It takes a little chunk of my soul and just grinds a heel in it. Yeah, this is gonna take a little while to fucking compile. The oh yeah, so they have been fixing a lot of bugs in MAME recently. Some graphical glitches and other things in drivers, and so that's why I wanted to do another build of this. And I also noticed something very interesting. So there's a developer, Cam 900 or something, and he has been working on a lot of bug fixes for games. But one interesting thing, his submission got rejected because I guess the way he did it wasn't really correct. But I noticed that he actually has been trying to do something for the wait state emulation for the CPS1 games, and there's a good little discussion thread on MAME's Git repository where they're talking about different ways to go about fixing that, and I really hope that happens because that has just been such a thorn in the side of CPS1 emulation for so long. I would really love to see that resolved. But yeah, but that guy's been doing a lot of fixes. He's been fixing just so many like little graphical glitches in games, and that really is some of the hardest, tedious stuff to do, just because it's it's really hard to troubleshoot. It's often difficult to even verify whether something is correct behavior, because when you take these games and you play them on a CRT, the CRT is masking so many graphical impurities that it's often hard to tell whether something is even a legitimate glitch or not. But but yeah, he's like fixed an amazing number of things. I mean, like Boogie Wings, I think is almost perfect now. Like Boogie Wings had so many problems, and it's really fucking solid now in the latest versions of MAME, and I thought that that was really really exciting. And also too, I noticed that that Kale, another developer, has actually been working on rewriting the Jaguar driver, and so I'm really hoping that you will actually be able to play Tempest 2000 in an emulator that doesn't blow peen, because man, Jaguar and 3DO emulation, they are so fucking deep in the toilet. It is really horrific. I mean, and for some reason, I don't know why this is. I guess it just must be because like in that region, maybe the 3DO was more popular. But it seems like all the good 3DO emulators are actually Russian, and so they tend to kind of be a nuisance to use on like English operating systems, because you have to download some like localization pack, or it still has like weird untranslated Russian shit in it, and frankly I don't even know if I trust that crap. For all uh, you don't even want to run those programs, and so really, like, I would really love for Tempest 2000 just to be in MAME, and playable there, because I mean I find that just such an atrocity. That Tempest 2000, I really believe, is one of the classics, and it should be in everybody's arcade cabinet. But it's just terrible that like there really isn't a good emulator for it. I mean, and it's fucking July 2020. It's fucking terrifying, man. I can't believe it's still that primitive. This far along. It's really fucking depressing. I mean, and really, like, I mean, I was almost hoping that that Tempest 4000 was going to be good, because I was kind of thinking like, well, okay, maybe Tempest 2000 isn't emulated, but if Tempest 4000 is really awesome and it's just like a straight up upgrade, I don't even care. Whatever. I'll just play Tempest 4000. But that game ended up being such a piece of shit. It was a non-starter. I mean, especially for arcade cabinets, because the game basically is reliant on analog controls. So if you had like a digital control arcade cabinet, it was already a fucking no-go. And I guess like that game didn't even support spinners natively. It just had. I mean, that thing was just such a lazy piece of fucking crap. It's I don't know. I really don't know what these guys are doing. I mean, these guys are supposedly doing this shit for a living, and it's like they don't even care. They don't even cover the fucking basics. So yeah, I mean there's I'm really hoping that I don't have to modify one of the commonly used header files again, because this shit, I mean, look at how fucking long this is taking just to compile. Jesus Christ. Oh my god, it's still going. Yeah, there is a lot of exciting shit that's happening. I think, starting around September. So, I'm really looking hard at doing a new computer for my arcade cabinet, and I'm really looking at taking one of those LG 48-inch OLEDs and putting that in it, and it could, because basically, if you have a 48-inch LG OLED and you have it in portrait mode, vertical orientation, it just about perfectly fits in a big blue cabinet. So you put that monstrosity in there, and you have it, vertically. Then you can basically just rotate all of your games, and play them at 4:3 and have like a really nice size screen, and there's like, I mean, it pretty much has all the features you want, because it does 120 hertz. It's got 4K worth of resolution, and so if you rotate it and you play 4:3 games, you'll end up with like 2880 by 2160, or I'm sorry, 2160 by actually, it's not that. It's going to be 2160 by like 1620 resolution, but that's still plenty though. That's plenty for for shaders. And so the only missing piece of the puzzle there is just that we need a video card that does HDMI 2.1, because these monitors support variable refresh, but so that part of it's covered, but you're not going to be able to get 120 hertz and all of that unless you have a GPU that has HDMI 2.1. So supposedly in September we're going to see new NVIDIA cards. We're going to be seeing new AMD CPUs. So it kind of looks like the stars are aligning for that, to potentially have some new hardware in there. I mean, I just find it really fucking hilarious, because all you hear from people is that, oh yeah, I took a fucking toaster and put it in my arcade cabinet. Yeah, you don't need a lot of hardware for arcade games. When in fact, if you actually want to do everything right, you literally need to take the very fucking latest, most expensive crap and dump all that in there. Like in terms of the, if you have like a flat panel solution, I mean, you literally need the very latest bleeding edge shit to even like do it in the best way possible. I just find it so fucking amusing that there's this perception of this stuff is like cheap budget crap, when it's actually the complete opposite. I mean, and that's even a pet peeve that I have about these CPU reviews. Like if you look at any YouTube shill's CPU review, you'll just see stuff like, oh yeah, single core performance really doesn't matter. Games don't really use it. Doesn't really make a big deal. So who really gives a shit? And if you run it above 1080p, all the CPUs basically perform anyway. Yeah, that's fine. But see, none of these fuckers actually benchmark MAME or anything that will actually use, or be really heavily reliant on single-threaded CPU performance. So what is the fucking point of benchmarking a CPU when you don't even fucking benchmark the programs that are CPU dependent? It's just so fucking ridiculous, man. Like I said, I mean, this planet goes out of its way to do every single fucking thing possible incorrectly. I mean, it's like you couldn't get it more fucking wrong if you tried. I just don't get it. I mean, and that's the other thing about like CPU reviews that you read. I mean, see, when I look at a CPU or I look at any new hardware, I really only care about worst case scenario performance. I don't really give a shit about just, these are the raw numbers in all scenarios. Like, I don't care if I make a new computer and, it runs Counter-Strike at 300 frames a second. I don't give a shit. Like, what I want to know is there, if I take this hardware and I build a new computer, am I going to play any game that won't run at my monitor's refresh rate? That's really the question. I mean, that's ultimately all I care about. Like if I can hit my current monitor's refresh rate, that is what matters. And there isn't nearly enough focus on minimum frames, worst case scenarios, when that's really all that matters. It's really fucking crazy to me that isn't more the focus. I mean, it's just like, people say, yeah, when I'm staring at my fucking feet in the game, I get 8,000 frames per second, but when I'm actually playing it, it's constantly dipping to fucking 30. Yeah, I mean, it's nonsensical. That is the kind of stuff that you don't care about best case scenarios. Best case scenarios don't matter. I mean, it's possible that as monitor technology, kind of catches up to what we can do. I mean, if we really do hit the point where we have, 1,000 hertz monitors, then it's like, yeah, okay, fine. Maybe that kind of performance will matter, but it's still really the same concept where the same logic applies, right? If I have 1,000 hertz monitor, my new desire is going to be to have a computer that will never dip below 1,000 frames per second because I want to be able to hit my monitor's refresh rate. So, yeah, I just don't understand, this emphasis on, highest frames and average frames and all this kind of shit when, at the end of the day, all that really matters is that you're not dipping below your fucking refresh rate. That is actually all that matters, I mean, slowdown should be looked at as, unacceptable, basically. When, I mean, that's when you get bad performance. That's when you have a bad experience, when you can't hit your refresh rate. But yeah, there is a lot of interesting stuff happening though with finally putting CRT technology to rest. I've noticed a lot of like really interesting things where people are actually talking about doing pixel shaders now that simulate CRTs not only in the way pixels look, but also in the way that they're drawn. So essentially, your pixel shader can actually draw the scan lines, to have like a flickering effect in the same way that a real CRT would display it. So essentially, instead of having black frame insertion, some artificial thing, you actually bake the the way the CRT is scanning out into the shader itself, and so effectively you can reduce motion blur in the shader itself, as opposed to actually having like a separate black frame insertion process. And so I think it's pretty interesting because when you really look at it, I mean that probably is an interesting direction to go, where the programs are really outputting in the same way that the original devices would have outputted the graphics. I mean, I think that's a really that's a really kind of interesting way to attack it. And I think that there's some promising experiments there. I think we're going to see a lot more of that stuff. Like right now, a lot of emulators tend to basically just say, I did all the work, here are all the pixels for the entire frame, and boom, I just spit it all out, and that's one frame. And I think you're going to see a lot more of emulators changing, the way they work, so they actually kind of display more like original hardware did, where you really are just racing the beam, drawing every scan line, as original hardware would, and so I think that's exciting. It's like it's probably going to happen within the next few years. We're probably going to have shaders that basically don't have motion blur because they're going to be effectively simulating the way that these games would have been scanned out on a CRT. So that's pretty awesome. I'm really looking forward to that because that's really one of the last pieces of the puzzle. I mean, I firmly believe that it's like OLEDs have enough response time. We have more or less enough resolution to simulate the way things are going to look, and so the last real hurdle has for these things has been motion blur. It's the last real hurdle. So that's the other exciting thing. I mean even for new games, there's a lot of interesting stuff that I've been reading about where if you've kept up with like mesh shaders. I mean essentially, I think the whole way that modern games are going to be done, it's going to be a lot more efficient than they've been in the past. Where I mean, if you really look at games up until now, the whole way that we've done the calling of triangles and basically just handling visibility has been like really fucking primitive. Like for example, if you're playing Quake or something, and there's an ogre who has his head sticking out around the corner, and you can see the ogre's head. Well, I mean, basically, like the way most games render today is they say, oh, well, the head's visible, so I'm drawing every fucking triangle on that entire ogre, even though, uh, I can only actually see his nose or something, and so with these new techniques that they're going to be using in new 3D APIs coming up, I mean, essentially they're going to have what they call meshlets, and basically models are just going to be made up of, well, as they already are, they're just made up of so many infinitesimal triangles, and they're going to be getting to the point where the developers are going to have complete control over it, where they're really going to be able to say, okay, I can only see the ogre's nose right now, so I only really have to draw maybe the ogre's nose and part of his head, and not like the whole rest of his body. And that kind of shit is going to just really blow the doors open, I think, for a lot of 3D graphics, because basically as soon as you can start doing smart calling like that, you can really start bumping the triangle count up on things. You can really get there where things start to look really amazing. Although of course I say all this, and yet the game industry is such a piece of shit that nobody's actually going to make a good game, so it doesn't really matter anyway. But pie in the sky, it's it's pretty amazing. I mean that's kind of what makes me laugh. It's like there's so much overwhelming brain power being exhausted on hardware and smart rendering techniques, and all of these amazing things, and then these fucking developers release these shitty tablet games that look like fucking trash that could have been made 20 years ago. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean really, people do not appreciate, I think, how fucking powerful a 2020 high-end PC is. I mean, it can do so much. It's fucking insane. I mean, there is so much raw, unexploited power there. It's fucking crazy. I mean, just thinking of the the potential of that hardware is mouth-watering. It can do so much, and just nothing's happening. I mean, hopefully, hopefully it'll go somewhere, at some point. But I'm a little pessimistic. I think there's going to have to be another something's going to have to happen, I think, before we actually start seeing real games again. But I mean, this is fucking. I can deliver the Gettysburg Address before this fucking compile finishes. Jesus, I can't believe. Yeah, see, like it was changing that header file, man. Changing that machine header file just fucking killed it. It's almost like this is a recompile. I mean, I might as well have done like a clean compile on MAME.
This is bed yet. Last we're not set yet. I'm not in bed yet. Last we're not set yet. Charmingly put, it's all made up. Tucked in, cozy, not quite sorry. Ready for snooze, all in all. We conclude that 1/3 of all life is spent in bed. That's not including the rent. They're hot for the moon, great for the moon. I understand that's confess. That's not including the rent. They're hot for the moon, great for the moon. I the rest I must confess. My sleeping back, my back, 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 my mobile, my caravan, my prayer, my double racing, double racing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Already gone. 21 more to come. Cheese baguettes, make them up. Gas on clean covers, I'm ready to expire. 5 is essential, but 8 is best. 10 to 12 or 12 to 10. 10 to 12 times you to heaven. 10 to 12 is what is yeah. 10 to 12 is what is 5 hours essential. 8 hours is best. 10 to 12 or 12 to 10. 10 to 12 times you to heaven. 10 to 12 is what is yeah. 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 After winter, there's spring. Without a ring. Squeak, squeak, it's spring. Those springs of yours need all. After winter, there's spring. Without a ring. With spring, those springs of yours need oiling. I'm not in bed yet. That's we're not set yet. I'm not in bed yet. Last we're not set yet. Charmingly put, it's all made up. Tight and cozy, not quite snowy. Rhythms moves all in all. We conclude that 1/3 of all life, 1/3 is spent in bed. That's not including the rent. They're hot for the moon, great for the moon. I the rest I must confess. That's not including the rent. They're hot for the moon, great for the moon. I the rest I must confess. My sleeping back, my back, 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 my mobile, my camera, my prefer, my double gazing, double gazing.
go back to the fact that, yes, your clitoris will always work for you, and when you find the G-spot, that adds to it. I always say to women, take control of your own clitoris.
Oh my god, Jesus, it finally fucking finished. Alright, so let's see if this thing blows up. Hopefully it's clean. See, look at that shit. Oh god. Oh my god. Pure as the driven snow. Black as the cosmos. Oh god, feels good. So yeah, so that's basically, you know, a really clean, you know, MAME build there. I'll throw this up so that you can play it, use it, whatever. But I just wanted to have that, you know, kind of documented, you know, the process of you know, removing all that you know, bull crap. Oh god, I can't play this fucking game with a keyboard.